Friends, I'm joined by my mate Phil, and we're having a chat about synchronous hybrid virtual worship, which is the phrase I made up, let's be honest. But Phil, on the same day that I posted something about it, you posted about your church moving to a hybrid model.
Yes. It's a little scary that we came up with a word that was similar.
Yes.
But yes, yeah, we're trying a hybrid model very similar to what you've been talking about.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be great. We'll just have a chat and we'll record this so that people might join in the conversation and learn a bit, or we might just propel the conversation forward about what worship can look like when we have two very distinct congregations connecting virtually, those connecting remotely. And, you know, we might hear about Turramurra's case. We've got almost a national audience and those in the room as well. So that's sort of what we're aiming for. So when you talk about hybrid worship at Turramurra, what are you aiming for? Like what's the vision in your context?
Well, if I can just go back a little bit and
Sure.
start with the beginning of the story. I've always been interested in live streaming worship. That partly came from my last placement when there was a couple of people who found it hard to come to church because of special needs and stuff like that. And so the idea of being able to connect them in was always some interest. So I've really been trying this for 6 years, but up till COVID-19, my idea of live streaming worship was to put a camera in worship so people can see what's happening and hear what's happening. And that was about it.
Yep.
And people did appreciate that, but it was really like you're watching what's happening. When we moved into COVID, one of the decisions that Turramurra made, which was that we wanted to make sure that our services remained interactive and engaging, that we didn't want people just to watch it, but rather to engage with each other and to engage with the time of worship. And so we changed a whole bunch of stuff in the way we did worship during COVID-19. Do you want some examples of what that looked like?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So things like, we started worship with a roll call. So we encouraged everybody to say hello in the comment section. And we had some getting to know you questions every single week that people could respond to, and purposely written in a way that would engage people to talk to each other. So somebody might write what their first car was and another person goes, oh, I had that car too. And suddenly it's like being in the foyer of the church beforehand and suddenly you're talking to each other. But also in things like in the sermon, we would ask questions and people would respond, and we tried right through the different elements of the service to try and make it as interactive as it could be. And people seem to respond really well to that. And so when we're moving back out of a single focused online worship, which was just for the people who were online, it was really only me and my son, Matt, doing the tech stuff who was in the building. How were we going to continue that interaction, that online engagement? And so once again, our church council made the decision that we wanted to be, if we're coming back in person, we wanted to be fully online. So the worship experience online would be no different to what you were getting in worship. And so that covered a whole bunch of stuff. Like we had to make sure that anything that anybody could see on the big screen in the building, they had to be able to see at home. If we were asking a question of people in the building, we're also asking the question of people at home. If people were chatting with each other either before or after the service, how did people online participate in that? And that's the way we had to start to think a little bit about saying, how do we do everything online that a person would be experiencing if they were in the building?
Yeah,
that's our vision.
Yep. And so you're you're using live stream through Facebook, and then
Yes.
it's complemented with Zoom gathering afterwards. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we do Zoom morning teas afterwards. Yes.
Okay, great. No, that's because again, the beauty of innovation during this time is people are using different platforms, different technologies, and each have opportunities and limitations. So that's
Well,
just the
I actually
reality.
think Zoom is a great model for doing worship within, but we were having too many people to do Zoom in a way that made sense. So that's why we're doing live stream to Facebook with comments rather than Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Now I think hearing that so far and having attended a few Turramurra services, I think I know the answer. But what's the impact on your preparation as the preacher, worship leader? What's it been like? And I guess as you continue to explore the opportunities for this hybrid model, what's being asked of you, and what are you noticing in your own preparation?
The word that I've used a lot when other people have talked to me about this has been you become a producer. So you're not just a worship curator, you're a producer, which means that you've got to think about things slightly broader. So little things like it takes people a while to find you online.
Yeah.
And so therefore we have to have 10 minutes before the service starts. And so you have to think about, well, what do you show for those 10 minutes? Is it just a blank screen that says our live stream is starting soon? Or is that an opportunity to begin the engagement already? And so that sort of questions is more of a producer question than a worship leader question, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so in terms of worship, I don't think I'm actually doing more preparation in, say, sermon writing or stuff like that. But there is a little bit more in thinking through how do I structure the whole service that makes sense online.
Yes.
And moving into the hybrid model, the catch is, how do we continue to do that and do the stuff that we do online? No, in person. So that idea of, is it going to be double the amount of work? No, I don't think so. It just means some extra thinking in the way that we shape the different elements of worship to make sense both in person and online. There are some learning curves. Every time you do something new, there's a learning curve, and that's where the time is. So you learn a new piece of software, or you learn how to cut a video. But once you start to learn how to do that, or people within your congregation learn how to do that, I think the preparation, it's okay.
Yeah.
Have I answered that question well?
Yeah. No, and I think there's a reality that this content does take more time, but the investment in I like the shift of production as well, and that production isn't just transactional. We can actually think about it with a community lens, with a discipleship lens, that actually we're creating an encounter and we're forming community through what we're producing. It's not just a one-way production. I think that's an important barrier for people to move beyond.
A good example of that, I did a sermon on different perspectives the other week. And in the countdown beforehand, I showed a whole bunch of videos of different people using, visual tricks and stuff like that. And people loved it, but it actually got people starting to think about, you can see things in different ways because that person just tricked me with a, optical illusion. And so even beforehand, it was just a practical thing. I needed a countdown so people could find us. But I started to use that as a way of engaging people in the topic of the day.
Yeah. Great. Now, obviously, the tech aspect of this is sometimes people find quite overwhelming. And we're going to, over the coming weeks, we're going to talk a little bit about that, I hope, with some options. But for Turramurra, someone's walked in the room but got the hush.
Sorry, that was Beck singing in the background.
Oh, no, it's rubbish. We'll edit that out. No, we won't. We'll leave it in. What does the tech investment look like? Not so much brands and items, but what does it look like, and how are you utilizing that as part of your worship experience?
I won't try and mention brands too much, but there are some very, very easy ways to do this.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, who's the minister at Yes Uniting Church, has been doing it brilliantly. He started with his iPhone on a stand and a television screen next to him to do the visuals. And it worked brilliantly. And so I don't think you need to be worried that you need all the greatest tech gear to make this happen. It's a changing of thinking that helps. We wanted to have our song words on the screen in an overlay fashion. So we had to move to a different system to what I'd used for the last 2.5 years of Turramurra, because that system couldn't do that. Using your iPhone on it, you can't put words on it immediately. So we moved to a system which allowed us to have different feeds, and basically with the green screen, we could we could put the words on. And so that was helpful. We've been doing that for 3 months, using that sort of a system. That's worked really, really well, except for moving into a hybrid model. Not only do we want words on the screen for the people who are watching our live stream, we now need words on the big screen back in our church. And we suddenly realized that they're different formats. You don't necessarily want the same format being on the big screen because you need bigger letters up there so people can see, rather than on the live stream. So we've had to move to another system yet again to be able to have multiple formats going to different screens. So we now use Pro Presenter to do that. We've only just been trying that for the last 2 weeks. And so, yeah, I guess it's what you're trying to do changes the level of technology. Most of the time we've been using just a very simple HDMI camera to do our recording. We're looking now at a system which has built-in cameras in our church, which is slightly more complicated, but we were trying to get rid of the setup time and the pack up time. And so once again, it comes back to what do you need at your church? What sort of things do you need to think about in terms of setup, or who's going to be using the system? That's a long-winded answer, not to really answer your question.
No, that is really helpful. Partly because what I hear in there is continuing to innovate based on needs. So
Yes.
It's not, and the willingness to invest in the technology that will meet those needs.
Yes.
I was telling people way back in May and stuff, imagine how much money you've saved on Arnott's biscuits and crappy coffee from your morning teas. Invest that into a decent camera or a better licensing arrangement to aid the production, I think. And what I'm hearing is that these things are, serving you. And I heard you say it on Sunday at church that this isn't a short-term vision either, that this is actually reimagining how we will do church moving forward. So this is an investment in that rather than a stopgap fix to just get us through, lockdown procedures, and then we'll go back to, what we were doing back in January.
One of the exciting things that has emerged out of COVID-19 that we weren't expecting was different people connecting into us, which are not necessarily from our geographical region. I've talked to other churches who seems to, if you know people, they'll come and check out your church online now because they can.
Yeah.
But we've had people come and check us out and stay. And so our church has sort of gone, well, we want to value them, that they are just as much a part of the church as somebody who is sitting in our building. So how do we not only engage them in worship and make sure the worship experience is just as good as if they were sitting in the church, but also we have to now start thinking through how do we support them pastorally, how do we support them with other resources. Not to say that some of these people have been running church themselves, and so we don't want to take away from that, but we want to be as helpful as we can in that situation. And so, our commitment is that we're not going to stop doing fully online church. That will continue on. And so, I don't know if it's helpful to talk figures, but we invested probably $4,000 or $5,000 straight up to say we need this stuff to keep going. But now we're looking at investing probably another $10,000 or so to make it a permanent thing within the life of the church.
Yep.
Which sounds like a lot of money, but as you said, when you're talking about well, employing a person to preach and stuff like that, it's an investment I think is really worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's it's really helpful. I think we're hearing, how do we value those people that have connected during this time?
Yeah.
How do we continue to maintain those relationships that might be an unexpected blessing and opportunity by what we've been through this year. So you've had 1 week of services embracing this hybrid, people in the church
Yes.
and connecting online. Is it too early to have heard any feedback?
Oh, no, I have got some feedback.
Yeah.
One of the things, I follow a whole bunch of ministers from over in the States as well, because they've been sort of like 4 weeks ahead of us in trying things. Not always getting them right, shall we just put it out there? But so I'm trying to learn off them as well. And one of the things that they said, just be aware when you reopen your worship, don't expect everybody to turn up. They're not going to. And so I already had heard that numerous times. And it was interesting on Sunday, we had about a third in the building and about 2/3 watching online. And so that they're right. Don't suddenly expect just because you're reopening a building, everyone's going to go, oh, great, that's exactly what we want. So 2/3 of our congregation said it's actually better for us for the moment to be online rather than coming to the building. And so it just sort of, showed the importance of making sure that we are maintaining the fully online experience because of, that's the majority of people at the moment. I think there was, you had to keep reminding yourself where people were at. From a person who loves interaction when I preach, I was preaching to the congregation because they were finally back there, but suddenly realizing, actually, I also got to acknowledge the camera that's sitting there as well, because that's where people are too.
Yeah.
And so, it was good that we had written a lot of that stuff into our worship service, the interaction. But yes, it's just remembering and coming back to the producing idea, have been thought through all that beforehand. I thought it worked okay. That there's still some really tricky parts that make you very stressed when a piece of technology like the sound stopped working for a minute and a half, and you're sort of going, this is hard work, but we have to push through that.
Yeah.
People are incredibly gracious, and I acknowledge that on Sunday. The people are okay when things don't work because they know that changing of a system is not always easy. They are very gracious.
Yeah.
But we got to keep trying and keep making sure that we can work out the kinks in the system so that the people feel included and part of what we're doing wherever we are.
What I love is in any sort of live stream broadcast, you can ask for comments and engagement, and you'll get a few. A few people will be. As soon as something tech glitch comes, every person will point it out. It's probably the best way to find out who's paying attention because 25 people will tell you the volume's dropped or or that's out of focus. But it just shows they are engaged and what they want to be able to participate through that way. So, Phil, thank you for joining us and having this chat. Where can people find, if they wanted to go back and have a look or maybe drop in on Sunday, how will they find out?
All our live stream stuff's on our Facebook page. We just find Facebook so easy that it provides the structure and to be able to do this easy. I know not everybody loves Facebook, but if you search for Turramurra Uniting on Facebook, you will find us there. But we've also had to make sure that we've got very clear instructions on our website. So turramurrauniting.org.au is our website. And if you go there, you'll see all the stuff that you need to do to find how to engage to our services and other things online.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Phil. It's been really helpful in this conversation about how we do church moving ahead, how we honour a hybrid community, and how we maintain this commitment to be the whole people of God over virtual connections. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. And if once we get our system set up, if you want me to do a visual walkthrough, I can do that for you too.
Excellent.